Explain like I'm 5. Why do people get offered water after a traumatic event or when in distress? Several reasons. Extreme stress can cause dehydration and vice versa. Drinking water has a natural calming effect on the body. It gives people something to do with their hands, which can help to calm them, in the same way that stress balls and fidget toys are often offered to kids who are stressed, anxious. It shows the person that someone cares and is looking out for them, so they don't feel like they have to deal with everything alone. And the mere act of opening up a bottle of water and taking a drink can momentarily redirect one's focus away from the stressful event trauma. It's also, mostly universally accepted by the human body. You don't need to worry about allergies, intolerances, taste preferences, etc. Sorry, I only drink Pepsi. Brondo for me. It's got electrolytes. I work in a mental institution. When someone is escalating, offering them water can sometimes help them shake off the voices, kind of like a sensory distraction. Emotional support. The person in distress may feel alone or disconnected. Offering them water may give them the sense that someone is looking out for them. Explain like I'm 5. How did the medieval knights survive such long trips? They didn't travel alone. They had squires and pages and other servants. Some were paid, some were devoted for life. Did they bring carriages with them as well, or just how much they could have carried? Yes, they did, as far as possible. They'd set up a defensible camp with a wagon full of supplies, tents for all the crew, dig a latrine, etc. Depending on the campaign quest, they'd often have a functioning blacksmith, carpenter, etc. Peasants living nearby might look for employment or trade food with them. From that camp, the knight would take his squire and ride ahead for the front line of battle, or into a remote village to collect taxes. Oh, so it never was a one and only lone wanderer like stories tell. The other thing is that many of them didn't survive. Injury, banditry, but primarily infectious disease could have easily killed them en route. That depends on what trips you mean. A knight would be minor nobility at least, which didn't always, but often meant at least some substantial wealth. Peacetime travel would usually mean staying at inns along the route. No one would camp when civilized food and beds were available. Is it possible to see what ethnicity race someone is just by looking at organs? Do internal organ texture, color, shape, size, etc. differ depending on race? If someone was only to look at a scan or an organ in isolation, would they be able to determine the race of that person? I wanted to put this link here that 2 commenters provided respectively. It's a fascinating read. Thanks so much for everyone's thoughtful contributions. Great reading, everyone's analyses, XX. No, the organs would be the same across races and/or ethnicities. A forensic anthropologist might be able to examine a deceased person's facial bones and use some measurements to make generalized assumptions about a person's ethnicity. That's still a long shot, and the best that someone who is highly trained could do is state what a person's origins might have been. That's at a level only directly beneath the soft tissues of the face. There's an ethnic group called the Baju that have enlarged spleens that allow them to dive for longer periods of time. Probably larger than average when averaged. Probably not distinctly larger. In at least one study, an AI was able to distinguish between races based on medical imagery, but nobody is sure how it did it. At nih.gov/news events newsroom, study finds artificial intelligence can determine race medical images. Another study found that an AI could even predict the insurance status of patients with moderate accuracy, using only chest X-ray. Adlerberg et al., 2022. So we should take these studies with huge grains of salt. Essentially, the deeper you go biologically, the clearer it becomes that race and ethnicity are human constructs, with only the loosest basis in human physiology. Pretty sure the only organ that would be different would be the skin. Yes, skin is an organ. Explain like I'm 5 what putting a car in L does. I've read it helps with towing and steep hills, but what is actually happening, and does it hurt the car by having it in L at any other time? It forces it to stay in the lowest gear, first gear, and this is usually not needed unless off-roading or going up or down a very steep hill. It gives your car the maximum amount of torque for going up steep inclines and the maximum amount of engine braking for going down steep inclines. This automatic transmission shift for comfort and efficiency, but it is programmed for normal usage, which is mostly flat road. You may find that it take a wrong decision by upshifting, which then it lack power, so it downshift and shift and downshift. You can force it to not shift by putting it in L. Some vehicle may have 1-2D. This limit the range to gear 1, 1-2, or full 1-2-3. 1 and 1-2 can help in hilly area by forcing it to stay in lower gear, again preventing the shift downshift madness. A lot of modern cars now just have S or M in the stick. Then on your dashboard you will see S1, S2, and it goes up to 5. Move stick up and down to choose which number. This is basically the same as the old 1 and 2, just with a wider range. With M, you would need to manually shift up and down. With S, you will automatically shift up and down up to the number you set. Worth noting that a lot of cars with M mode aren't truly manual in terms of gear selection. For example, the car won't let you stall if you manually put it in the top gear and come to a stop. It'll just downshift for you, like it would in regular mode. Likewise, it won't let you sit and bounce off the rev limiter at the top. So it gives you the best of both worlds, unless you are a manual purist, manually selecting gears but keeping you within sensible parameters. If you ride a bike, this should be something you've experienced before. L, or low gear, is good for exerting less force yourself, the trade-off being that you need to pedal more times. So you'll be pedaling many times with little effort, but each rotation will be moving your bike by a minuscule amount. At a high gear, pedaling requires considerable effort, but each rotation of your feet moves the bike along much further. So when the terrain is flat, and you can easily expend that effort, you switch to the high gear and zoom past. When the incline is steep, you switch to a low gear so you can pedal up without dying. If you use L under normal conditions, you're spinning your engine pedal much more than is needed and will be inefficient with your fuel. This also increases the wear and tear on your engine and caps your max speed, since even when spinning, pedaling furiously, your car won't move very fast. This is an excellent response and very suited for this subreddit. When you go down a mountain or very large hill, you need to slow your car on the way down to maintain control. The obvious way to do that is to ride the brakes, but braking heats the brakes up. Constantly braking for long periods can cause them to overheat and melt the brake lines. Then you lose all brake power, so you need a way to slow down when going down a mountain that doesn't overheat your brakes. That's what L does. It locks your engine into low gear, which forces your engine to spin fast relative to the wheels. Spinning the engine fast takes a lot of energy. If you are not feeding the engine fuel, then that energy comes from your forward momentum and slows you down. This way, the engine is slowing you instead of your brakes. And the engine can handle slowing you this way for hours without any issues. Explain like I'm 5. Why does dental school take so long? All you have to learn about is the teeth, right? And it's the same length as medical school. Huh? Hello, I'm a licensed dentist. Very few people in this thread know what they're talking about. The first 2 years of dental school cover didactic courses such as anatomy, pathology, biochemistry, and histology, along with specialized courses unique to dentistry. Your second 2 years, you spend performing work on live patients under the supervision of professors, while also taking some classes. You graduate when you complete a required number of every procedure, as well as pass state and national boards. I know this is hard for people to wrap their head around because it's just teeth, but 4 years really only scratches the surface. I graduated 2 years ago and still learn new things every day. To clarify some misinformation in this thread, dentists are not medical doctors. These are separate schools, although dentists might take classes with the medical students. We took anatomy and pathology together, and other courses were taught by the same professors. I'd say dental school is harder, but I'm biased. The reason these are separate disciplines is purely historical and has nothing to do with the mouth being a unique part of the body in some way. Please feel free to respond with questions. Not to mention, so much is impacted by dental health. The mouth is part of a very complex system that interacts in amazing ways. It's so much more than just teeth. Impacted. Are you doing dental humor? Our mouths are one of our weakest points as humans, and we have a lot of them. Pulling or even filling a tooth wrong can leave you with a paralyzed face or dead. Wait, what? I only have one mouth. How many do you have? A lot of them. On the flip side, dental school grads don't do residency outside of certain subspecialties. So while the school in both is 4 years, they are fully independent practitioners after 4 years, while a medical school graduate is not. Well, that's another episode of Explain Like I'm 5 in the books. I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.